We are Cactus Wrestling. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.
Cactus Wrestling is now available on Spotify and Amazon. And don't forget to check us out on Etsy for all of your Cactus Wrestling apparel needs.
Welcome back to Cactus Wrestling. As you can see, we have two fresh faces joining the podcast today. And kablam! There's Mike. You thought he was gone, but there he is. Same room and everything. Look at that. But we are joined today by Mr. Ed Lovely and Mr. Tom Long. Brothers, look at this.
Hey,
two sets of brothers and a lovely gentleman on the ground. There we go. Today we're going to be talking about, is it time to nix Folkstyle wrestling for Olympic style wrestling, Freestyle and Greco? We are going to debate. We have a lot of conflicting opinions between the five of us here, and we would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section down below. So I guess this whole video was brought to light from the aftermath of the 2024 Paris Olympics, where Team USA men's didn't do so hot and Team USA women's did pretty darn good. And why is that? Well, women's wrestling only do freestyle in the collegiate scene and onwards. And what do they do for men's? Folk style at collegiate level. Obviously, they compete in freestyle and Greco in off-season events, but for the most part, the main priority is folk style. So we were kind of in a group chat together and saying, all right, well, what gives here? Is it time to put more emphasis on the freestyle that everyone else in the country, in the world, every other country does? So let's kick it off here. Why don't we start off with Mr. Tom?
Yeah, great. So you kind of started me off strong there with that first point. I mean, we're talking. You look at the women's, you look at the men's. They're doing the same sport. It's the same rules, same technique, right? But why is our women's team being so dominant in these most recent years? And it's kind of showing that doing all this extra work early on and currently is like definitely paying off. When you're focusing on one thing, your job, your goal is to accomplish that one goal. It's going to be, no, I don't want to say easier, but you're spending all this time on it. It's gonna definitely improve your end game.
Well, I mean, I feel like this year was the most successful year the women have ever had.
Right, but it's gotten better and better. Only what was it, 2000? Was it 2008 or 2016? When the women, we first had our first women's gold. It was pretty recent, right?
Earliest one in 16.
16. Yeah. So, we made the jump to now we have women getting gold medals. Now we're getting two women, and it's making these jumps, right? We're making, and they're, who knows? Maybe next Olympics we get, maybe 3 or 4 finalists. Who knows?
That would be at home too. So
I would agree with Tom there, though. I think that women's team, and again, I'm going to be kind of a moderator here because I could see both sides of it. But I think that the women's team is trending in the right direction, and we're seeing it with even younger wrestlers. I mean, look how many high schoolers almost made the world team this year. In the women's division. And I know that we had a few for the high school for men's as well, but we're seeing young women get better and better at freestyle. And then for the men's side, it's okay, he's a great freestyle wrestler, but folk style is more his thing. I think the women have more trajectory right now than the men do.
Well, yeah, they also have a younger team right now.
Yeah.
That, Mike, what you just said there kind of ties into what my next point was, though. But you're talking about training at a younger age, right? Now, if you could take these male athletes and start training them at younger ages, where instead of having to learn 3 different styles of wrestling throughout their time going from kindergarten through 8th grade, or even
I don't
college.
think there's that many young kids doing Greco, but
we have young guys. We have young guys.
What are they doing?
They're doing folk style primarily.
There you go, and that's why
you hear a lot of high school kids. They don't like doing freestyle. They're like, I don't want to do that. I don't like it. They just
it's because it's changed. It's something that they're not used to. I bet if you go to Russia, you try to teach them how to wrestle folk style, they're gonna be like, "What the hell is this garbage?"
How many freestyle matches did you wrestle in high school?
0. There was maybe two weeks of clinics. I'll let Ed.
Ed, how many did you wrestle? You-
1 year.
Because you went to
One
Fargo,
summer.
yeah.
Yeah, I did Fargo 1 year.
Okay, and that was the only matches you did in high school that were freestyle.
I mean, I did that freestyle season, like leading up to Fargo, did a few tournaments and stuff. But I think that's part of the point. Is the reason we're lacking at the international level is because our growing up, we're not as exposed to freestyle. It's kind of strange to me. You don't see that parallel in other sports, where in the U.S. we're trained for a different sport growing up, parallel to a more popular Olympic sport this year. You wouldn't have Noah Lyles train in a 50-meter or 150-meter dash and then go to the Olympics and run the 100 or 200, right? Like that's kind of, it's strange to me that most of my wrestling career was a style that isn't even competed at the highest level.
I mean, that is a good point.
That's fair. And I also hated freestyle wrestling.
What's about it
for you?
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Would you? I mean, this is an impossible question to answer, but would you hate it if that's all you knew? If you grew up on freestyle?
No, I mean, I probably would love it. I mean, we all wrestle. I mean, everyone here wrestled for many years, and we have a love-hate relationship with it. But now that we're older, we can look back and have tremendous respect for what we've done in the sport and can appreciate it at a higher level. So even though I hated at the time doing the freestyle wrestling, I can appreciate the difficulty that the skill set that you have to have to perform.
I always liked freestyle. I always enjoyed competing freestyle. So
I know that the club that Tom and I coach at for youth, a lot of our young guys are getting into freestyle now. Like young middle school, older elementary school. And I talk with their parents, I talk with them, and they go, we actually like it more than folk style. And it's such a shift for me because just like you guys all said, like, yes, I did freestyle. Maybe I did a little Greco. I didn't like it compared to folk style. Now I'm having 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th graders that are like, this is my preferred style, actually. It's like, I just, I love freestyle. It kind of sucks that I have to do folk style a few months out of the year now. And I think we're beginning to see that shift a little bit with people getting into it at a younger age and getting a real appreciation for it.
So one point I'll make is, so this year was the first year we didn't have a gold medalist at the Olympics, first time in 56 years.
The men's.
In the men's.
Yes.
First time we didn't have a gold medalist in the men's for 56 years. I mean, that's over 50 years worth of training folk style and getting a gold medal. So that's kind of a lot of data backing up using training folk style and having success at the highest level. I mean, this year obviously was not a great year, but I find it hard to believe that this year is the new rule as opposed to this year being the exception.
Also, what I would say too is that, do you think that if Gable Steveson wrestled, he would have won gold?
Not at this point, no. I think
what?
If you asked me 4 years ago,
if he was training all this time, if he wasn't on the bill,
Well, he was
that's what I'm talking about.
Off the bench on the Bills,
not just no. If he,
I thought you meant like the Bills cut him and he cut from WWE, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna give this wrestling thing another shot. I don't think I think he'd probably medal. I mean, if he trained for 4 more years, yeah, he's winning gold. No offense to everybody else, Gable's just better.
So that's what I'm saying. Like this roster that Team USA had 3 rookies on it, basically: Aaron Brooks, Mason Parris, and Zane.
Well, and Spencer Lee, and
Spencer Lee, I guess.
Yeah, but Zane's a returning world champion.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Aaron Brooks.
No, but a different weight though.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like they're still experienced in freestyle.
So he's had the spot before. Spencer Lee was brand new, and so
Aaron Brooks.
So it's a transition.
Well, though.
It's a transition.
Aaron Brooks won U23s last year, and he beat David Taylor. I mean, he.
Do you think David Taylor would have won gold?
Aaron Brooks is not the
Yes.
issue here. He bronzed. I'm talking about the other guys who didn't medal.
Like Mason Paris.
Yeah, like
Mason Paris, who
was a
That's just Michigan. That's just a Michigan product.
That's a Michigan product.
Adam Kuhn also didn't do very well. Also,
well, that's
Michigan
Greco.
product.
That's Greco.
So, gonna bring it back then. I know it's a little off course. If Adam Kuhn did Greco instead of folk style or freestyle from the time he was, a wee little 5-year-old weighing 135 pounds, he's big. Little joke there.
Very big.
But if Adam Kuhn, like we see with the Rainey brothers right now, why are they so good at U17 Greco, where one took gold last year and one took gold this year and the other one took bronze? No, I know, but I'm saying, do you expect them to continue this success in Greco into the U20s, into U23, into seniors?
It depends on how much they like Greco, because I feel like a lot of guys ditch Greco for freestyle at the international stage.
And so,
and the guys that we do have at the Greco stage are generally not that great at freestyle. Most of the time, the Greco world team are guys I've never even heard of. Period. Yeah. Except for their Greco accolades. It's not like, oh, they were phenomenal in college and now look at them, they're doing really well on the Greco stage. It's just this Joseph Rao. I didn't know who that was until the world team trials.
Yeah, the first time he made it. Yeah.
You think that's why a 41-year-old can win the Greco?
John is just built
5 times in a row.
Come on, he's built different.
Put some respect on Lopez's name.
Yeah, that's the only guy in history to do that.
Yeah, across all sports.
Do you think that right now the collegiate for US, the collegiate scene, which is the big anyone who follows wrestling, the NCAA tournament, that's a big thing in wrestling aside from the international stuff. Do you think if that was switched to freestyle, it would still have the same following?
I don't think so.
Why wouldn't it?
I don't think it would, because freestyle matches, they can end in 10 seconds. You get a takedown and you do leg lace or gut, and it's over. And I've seen Nashawn Garrett get and freaking what's his face from Ohio State,
Tomasello.
I've seen both of them lose in less than 14 seconds because of one takedown.
The leg lace is okay.
There's no other sport where you can hit one move and end the entire Imagine in football, you kick off and you got the touchdown off the kickoff and the game ended because that happened.
The quidditch.
Any martial arts sport is a one move away. You could see that argument for MMA fighters, UFC, judo. I mean,
you have the pin too.
I would say this to your
boxing. Mike Tyson throws a haymaker, knocks the guy out in 30 seconds, and it's that's the same thing you just kind of talked about.
It's not the same thing because this is points, not a knockout punch. A pin is a separate thing. A pin would be a knockout punch. One move that can score
I see what you're saying.
Points is there's no comparable thing.
Right.
So to answer your question, I think if we had a more freestyle and Greco culture, then it wouldn't make a difference. But so many people don't care about freestyle or Greco until they get to the Olympics or international scene. But your average wrestling fan doesn't follow the Olympics, or follows the Olympics, but maybe doesn't follow the Worlds. They'll be excited for Jordan Burroughs is going to wrestle for the 74 kilo spot in 2016, and they're jazzed about that. But then the other 2017, 2018, 2019 world team, they're I didn't even know that was a thing.
Well,
so if we had what's up?
Keep going.
I would say, so if we had freestyle and Greco as instead of folk style from youth through high school into college, and we made that full switch, I think that the results would be the same. You'd get the same amount of fans because they understand the sport now. But if you just switch the NCAA tournament, you'd have people be like, well, I followed high school and I got that for years. I didn't wrestle in college. Why is it different?
Yeah, true. No, I actually agree with you because I think what makes the college NCAA so exciting is the team culture, the rivalries.
And it's relatable.
Ohio State versus Penn State versus Iowa. And to the casual viewer, they don't really know the rules to folk style anyway.
Well, they just like to see people get thrown.
Get lost.
But people like the throwing. I mean, I know people that they'll just look up wrestling and they don't follow it. But like, oh, did you see this guy get thrown in his neck? Isn't that sweet? And I think that's why freestyle and Greco at its purest would be able to bring in a lot of fans, because you're just seeing when you have, I'll take Kevin Jack. Guys that watch this channel probably know of him as a great folk style wrestler. Ryan Jack too. They are not known for their freestyle prowess. I think it would make things. We just saw.
Well, Ryan
Jake
Jack did beat.
Oh yeah, Pat Glory.
He beat Pat Glory.
Hecked him. Freestyle.
I'll take Kevin then for some of our older fans. 3-time All-American for NC State, heck of a wrestler, not a freestyle guy. If you told me that, Kevin was wrestling in freestyle and he got yeeted by just some random guy, I think it would draw people into the sport like crazy.
You think random guy could draw attention?
I think people love a storyline. I think that with a guy that's very talented and you're like, wow, I followed Kevin in high school and he was such a great wrestler. And now it's freestyle and he gets tossed and someone's like, well, what the heck? How did that happen? Why is this such a good wrestler suddenly not winning? I think it's a storyline people would want to follow.
Like when Pintalio got beat at the World Team Trials against that college kid.
Yes.
In like the first or second
the guy
round, and then he came.
Oh yeah.
I forget which college group.
Buffalo, right?
No, not Buffalo.
That was Buffalo.
No, come on now, Buffalo. Sorry, Donnie.
So I think that I just don't think there's a real need. Like I think the top guys for Team USA are still training freestyle. I just don't know if like they would jump another level if that's all they did, because there's so much influence from folk style. I think of like Spencer Lee's, like he's doing arm bars on dudes, like getting turns doing arm bars. Like that's a uniquely folk style thing. His
yes and no. I mean, other countries are doing that now, though. That's the thing, is like we're seeing other countries that don't do folk style.
They're adopting folk style, is what you're saying?
We just saw, it's not a folk style thing anymore. It's not exclusive. I mean, we just saw Japan get pinned at 74 kilo and with a cradle. It's not a typical freestyle move to have, a cross-face cradle, but it happened. And I can tell you what, that guy probably does not do a lot of folk style in Bulgaria or wherever he was from. I don't remember. But I think that like folk style is awesome and I love folk style, but I do think that just like anything, if you focused on freestyle and Greco earlier and for longer, yes, you might have some people fall out of the sport, but I think overall we'd have a better product. And I think that a lot of countries now are catching up to America because, they're just finally investing into their freestyle and Greco products.
I mean, I don't know if I fully agree with that.
Look at Aaron Brooks. Aaron Brooks should have made the finals. Why didn't he? Because he was in a classic folk style situation where he was trying to stall out.
Yep.
And that's a classic folk style situation. And this is a guy that honestly has a good amount of freestyle experience. He is a returning U23 world champion. He won 2 straight matches against David Taylor. He's gone toe-to-toe with Zahid Valencia in some controversial matches. Zahid is a multiple-time world medalist at this point. But that is a classic folk style position that Aaron Brooks thought I could just hang out here, hold the leg, and got exposed. And it's like that, which makes the difference in freestyle. And I can't help but think that if Aaron Brooks spent a whole year training freestyle instead of coming straight from an NCAA season right into it, he wins that match. We get a gold medal from him because Yazdani was hurt. And then the Aaron Brooks story trajectory is even bigger.
It's a good point.
Well, then
every now and then I get a few of them.
Now, what would you guys? So Ed and Tom, you seem to be on the side of switching to freestyle. There's been some commenters in the past who have said that, because Tom mentioned the women's team and the rise to success, that perhaps, the depth isn't there for women's wrestling and as opposed to men's wrestling. Do you think that plays a factor into it? Or is it more so, no, the women are just showing up because that's what they've been doing? Like they've been committing so much that's all they know basically. They've been training 24/7 freestyle. Whereas the men, I mean, some men like nowadays, like the guys post college, they're only doing freestyle, but maybe the depth pool is a little bit bigger because there's more countries participating.
Oh, and then there's the U.S. men that are wrestling for other countries.
Well, that
Yes.
yeah, that's true. We don't see too many U.S. I don't think there's any U.S. women competing for other countries.
No.
Because they're loyal.
You can make that argument in almost all sports, though, with not having as many women athletes as men to pick from. But yeah, I mean, you could make. I wouldn't go against that. It's definitely true and possible that having less competition to kind of beat out to get that starting spot or to win the gold. But at the end of the day, a gold medal is a gold medal, and if it's whatever's working for them, it's working for them. And I think I saw a post saying that 65% of the golds came from women this year. So
Across all sports, or
out of all sports, yeah,
ah,
for the Olympics. So it really, in my mind, it doesn't matter how we get our medals as long as we are that best country. So well, I don't know if Ed has a different point on it, but that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, no, obviously, there's less women wrestling. It's a smaller crop, so maybe there's an argument that it's less competitive. But imagine if we had the percentage of men's wrestlers training freestyle as we do on the women's side. I mean, Jack, I thought you had a good point about our top men's freestyle guys. Maybe they wouldn't be getting that much better had they started earlier. But the crop of guys they'd be competing against, I mean, I think iron sharpens iron, right? We shouldn't just be focusing our analysis on the top guys. We should be looking at if, Brooks and Dake and our whole freestyle team had to compete against a crop of guys who grew up in freestyle and not just a small percentage of American wrestlers who made the switch from folk style to freestyle some point in high school or college, which is usually when it happens for most of us. Think about how much more competitive it would be. And just to go back to a couple of things you guys mentioned earlier, that 56 years streak we had of gold medals. Well, that's also, except for one Olympics, that's 56 years where other countries beat us in medal totals and in overall success. I mean, I just had the Wikipedia page.
Yes,
all the
bring it
years
up.
that Japan, Russia, Soviet Union. In '84, the U.S. had the best success for wrestling. But every other year it was Japan or Russia, and those are countries to my knowledge that are primarily training freestyle and Greco from the jump. So we have had great success. Those gold medals for all those years in a row. But imagine how much better we could be if we started at a younger age with the freestyle and Greco. And then especially we talked about how all these kind of nobodies or relative nobodies that you don't really hear about on the Greco side coming up. Didn't hear about them at the NCAA level, at the college level. Imagine again how much better that Greco crop would be coming up if this was a style that we focused on more in the youth, in the high school. How many more guys, Joe Rao and Kamal Bey and all of them would be competing against to get to the Olympics. So those are just a few of my thoughts on, if you increase the amount of people who are training those styles at a younger age, I think it's better for everyone.
I would love to see a crop of guys that came up that they never wrestled freestyle and they only trained
Aaron
Greco.
Pico.
Yeah, Aaron Pico. Okay. And then came in and like had a crop of like what we normally have, and they were like in the finals of like the world or Olympic trials together to see how they compared. I mean that'd be pretty difficult.
That'd be a good
to come
case
by,
study.
but yeah, that'd be pretty cool to see. But yeah, that'd be the 20+ years in the making.
That was a throwback name, Jack. Aaron Pico.
Yeah, Pico, what a guy.
That was a person that would have been actually very interesting to study before he switched to MMA. I mean, he decided to forego college, really even before went high school, if I remember correctly. I think he won California State Championship as a freshman, and then was like, okay, I'm moving strictly into freestyle as a sophomore in high school. And you know, who knows how he could have done if he stuck with it. I think his MMA career is average. I
would say it's extremely average. Nothing of a superstar.
Do you guys think that if the Olympics had 10 weight classes, the U.S. depth supersedes other countries in which we would have performed better or historically performed better because you have guys going a more natural weight class?
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, just we would have had Zahid in the rank. I mean, Zayn wouldn't have gone down to 65. He would have been so much better at 70.
You would have had like Vito at 61. I mean, we would have had a lot of returning gold medalists. But I think that's what I love about the Olympics, and what a lot of people don't like is that it does go down in the weights. And I think it forces guys to really, I love competition. If you're a great wrestler at 160 and you're a great wrestler at 140 and the spot is 150, I think that forces guys to really bring their A game. I think it makes it more competitive. It's why I think winning an Olympic gold is more impressive than winning a world gold. And some coaches,
I agree.
Yeah, Terry Brands doesn't agree with that. He did an interview where he's like, winning a world championship is just as hard, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not. You're not cutting out 40% of the competitors.
And additionally, like, I love Jordan Burroughs. Jordan's won a ton of world championships. He has a singular Olympic gold.
Yep.
It is so rare to have a wrestler,
John Smith,
from any country, to win 2 Olympic golds.
Yeah. Or what's her face from Japan?
Yeah. Yoshida?
Yoshida.
Yeah.
Rules.
I mean, it is so hard to do, and that's what I kind of love about the Olympics. Yeah.
Let's go with the recent guy.
But that's what I kind of love about the Olympics, is that it actually has fewer weights. And I know a lot of people, that's not a very popular opinion. But
I think it's pretty spread out too. It's like 20 pounds at least.
Yeah. But I mean, we've talked about like what changes we would make to the Olympics in general. I kind of hate the bracket style. What was it? I wrote this down because I was curious about this.
But I wonder if it's just like we're not competing to the extent of our ability because of these weight cuts, or the fact that it is folk style that's been the primary upbringing.
I mean,
it could be both, but I mean, other countries are dealing with the same weight cut that we're dealing with.
But that's what I'm saying. The U.S. has more depth than other countries.
I mean, I think
I was just going to say, I think a lot of our Olympic team this year stayed at the same weight as their worlds. I mean, Dake was at the same weight. Brooks, we haven't seen him at another weight. Right? He's always been 86. Same with Paris. Right? I think most of our
Spencer
Olympic team cuts this year. Yeah, Spencer and
Zayn was the only one.
Zayn was at a different weight. Yeah,
he was at 70.
So
it's 10 pounds more, yeah.
I mean, that's significant, but I think for the most part, our teams this year were used to the weights they were at. Helen came up, but she's been up at 57 for a few years now, I think. Yeah. So I don't know. I just think that
Meat was the only
if you want to be the most.
Yeah, but Amit's a different kid. She's a different. She's she can go wherever she wants.
Different. Youngest
really,
Olympic gold
from me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's a little different. She can really go wherever she wants.
She can beat her boy, so
Yeah, she can beat her. Yeah, she can beat me. She can beat Micah or Mika.
So, yeah, she's definitely. I hope she does a run like Yoshida and gets like 4 or go for 4 or something, or Mijanza.
Yeah.
On the theme of should we get rid of folk style or not? Maybe we take take some page out of Amit's book and switch it all to judo. Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what she was doing?
Yeah, she's judo and jiu-jitsu. I mean, she does it all.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I think that getting back to it, I would like to see Team USA take a step forward in Greco. I think that it's kind of become the bad joke at this point, where
all day is still salty about that. So.
Yeah, and I mean, look, imagine getting to the Olympics, which is an incredible accomplishment. I mean, there's only so many people in the world that do it.
Well, only 4 of the 6 weights we sent. We didn't even send all 6 weights for Greco.
Just to be dogged by people be like, oh, the Greco team sucks. And it's like, well, yes, it's not the result we want. But it's still incredible to make it there.
You're still an Olympian.
Yeah. And I think Greco is a sport, I think the style of Greco, I don't really enjoy it personally. But I think that if we had guys specializing in Greco earlier on, I mean, look at Colton Schultz. This is a guy that's clearly a Greco specialist and just kind of does folk style because he has to.
Yeah. Is that how come Adam Kuhn beat him for the spot?
I think it's because we just don't have the right guys at the right spots. I think that. Well, my point is this: we're shoehorning guys into Greco, really. I think that if you had someone like Mason Paris, who's a little bit more athletic than Colton Schultz, shall we say, and Mason didn't have to ever do folk style because it was freestyle and Greco, he might have picked Greco at a younger age instead of doing freestyle because it had carryover into folk style. And then we'd say, okay, look at Lopez, for example. He is a very different build than Adam Kuhn, a very different build than Colton Schultz. He's more of a Mason Paris-esque build where he's leaner, he's big, he's jacked. I also think that
every 4 years.
Yeah. I think that the bigger issue for upper weights especially is we have this awesome thing in America called the NFL, which steals a lot of our really athletic big guys.
In the WWE.
Don't you think it's weird that the NFL guys are training football at a young age and it really doesn't change at all? And now they get to the professional level and they're making
what other option would the football players have?
Wrestling.
Flag football.
Is it going so well for Gable that
I would say we do the opposite. We get a JJ Watt in his prime, and you're like, oh man, he's 6'2", 290 with an 8-pack. I mean, you're telling me this guy couldn't win probably a medal? JJ Watt, who has a 60-inch vertical, bench is 600 pounds. You're like, oh yeah, but can he wrestle?
I think the steroid testing is a little more strict in the Olympics than probably the NFL.
Yeah, that's true.
I bet a lot more guys are on steroids than they actually say.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
No, I was just going back to the football thing. It's these guys that kids are training. That's a specific sport, and it's not just football. It's all the sports. And then we're training these kids to do folk style, just for them to graduate college and be like, all right, you dabbled in this, but now we got to be professional at it. It's very confusing. It's even for the fan base, it can be confusing. You're trying to follow along, and you've been following along all these years, and then you're like, oh, Olympic wrestling is going to be on. I can't wait to watch it. And then you're like, what the hell? What is going on?
Also, they do a terrible job covering it. The women's team had the phenomenal thing. They could have made that a headlining thing, and instead they show minimal clips, and it's oh yeah, Amit and Sarah, they won gold. That's great. Okay, moving on to this swimming. Freaking we see a ton of swimming. You could have really highlighted this and really helped grow women's wrestling, but no. Let's just
even gymnastics. The women's gymnastics is that's what everyone looks forward to. Oh, can't wait to watch Simone. Can't wait to watch the
once every 4 years. Everyone cares about gymnastics.
Yeah.
Well, Ed and I talked about this off screen. I think that a lot of it too is that you can win multiple medals in gymnastics.
That's
you
true.
Win multiple medals in swimming, and so a large chunk of Team USA medal haul comes from that. And you talk about people's oh well, Michael Phelps hadn't lost a gold medal match in 15 years. It's okay, but he's lost races in between that, and it's very different from a wrestler. It's okay, she's 82-0, and they're like, okay, but who cares?
Yeah.
Because each match isn't a gold medal like they do for swimming.
Right.
So if wrestling made this dramatic overhaul and they said, okay, each match is a medal match.
How would that work?
Or if they have different events, like a one period or versus
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, or just, you know, if they had mixed, you know, something just like Jack was saying, where they had different ways to earn medals, I think we'd see a larger following for wrestling. But for a lot of people, it's like Olympic weightlifting or what's another sport that no one really follows because it's only trap and skeet, same thing. You know, trap shooting. They're only winning one medal. And it's like, cool, like Team USA won 43 medals. And it's like, well, one of those came from me. And it goes, okay, but 13 came from swimming and 18 came from gymnastics. So why do we care about you when, you know, our basketball team got 4 medals?
The basketball team can get more than one medal?
No. I mean, well, they give everybody an individual medal and they do a team medal, but it's, you know.
You can get an individual medal for basketball?
Well, no,
well, no, they don't. They each get a team medal for their team.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's not like 6 medals.
So I'm glad you brought up the coverage of it. That's something that I wanted to talk about. The other thing is, I think one of the reasons, you know, track and swimming get a ton of coverage is, you know, everyone knows the rules. It's easy to see who wins for, you know, a casual sports fan. And, you know, gymnastics, it's just, even if you don't understand the scoring, it's impressive to watch, and those sports get a ton of coverage. Wrestling, you know, people just don't know the rules, and there's a lot of, this is another reason I kind of jotted down before that I think at a younger age we need to make a transition to freestyle and Greco. Think about the coverage, compare it to, you know, the NCAA finals, prime time on ESPN. You got like Billy Baldwin and other celebrities showing up, and Olympic wrestling got almost no coverage. And I think a big part of it is people don't understand it. You know, there's a lot of people who wrestled in high school, a lot of casual fans, but it's boring if you don't know the rules. Like I tried to watch.
I know the rules, and there's sometimes calls get made, and I still don't understand what happened.
Yeah. So like I tried to watch, you know, just while the Olympics were going on, waiting for wrestling, I tried to watch like judo or something. And like I figure it's similar, combat sport should be interesting. But you know, when you don't know the rules, you miss so much of it. And you know, like my dad, for just take an example, always watches the NCAAs, or you know, if they have dual meets on the Big Ten network. But he didn't really watch the Olympics because it's not exciting for a casual folk style fan who doesn't know the international rules. But if all those casual fans grew up on freestyle and Greco and actually knew it, you know, maybe our nation's coverage and kind of excitement for the sport wouldn't just stop at the NCAA level. Maybe it would move on to the international level as well.
I think it's fair, especially since I think wrestling is the national sport in Iran, and I think probably some of those other Middle Eastern countries.
Zara apologized for getting silver.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Iran was so loud, like anytime you could tell their fan base like understood the calls. You'd hear them going nuts or booing or cheering based on what the ref was doing. And, you know, USA, you get great USA chants, but you don't really, I didn't notice as much involvement on like, you know, the particulars.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. I think, so kind of wrapping it up here. So where do we all stand in terms of what should we do with Folkstyle? Is it time to transition for USA? So Tom, you're saying get rid of Folkstyle.
Yeah, no reason to have it. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it's unless the Olympics can be changed to do folk style as well. I mean, somehow we got trampolining and rock climbing in the Olympics now. So if we could get a third style of wrestling into the Olympics, that might be a cool option. But I just don't see that happening.
How many guys would do freestyle if the folk style was an option?
Honestly, that's a really crazy idea though. Like if you had folk style, freestyle, and Greco, Team USA could clean up folk style. We could have guys specializing in freestyle at this time.
Yeah, they'd be worse at Greco.
Yeah, and then we just go, okay, like we want two Yeah, and still nobody for Greco.
No one.
Even less with the Greco. The Greco team is even worse.
That's okay. Hey, as long as we win 2 out of 3 styles.
Ed, where's your stance?
I think it's time for a switch, and I think Greco is the biggest example. You know, our Greco guys can't get turns in parterre because they didn't wrestle parterre growing up. I mean, look at how much they just seemed uncomfortable out there, and like you know, half a tier below some of the other countries who practiced those sports growing up. I wish I had more exposure to freestyle and Greco growing up. I think it would have made me a better wrestler. And I love Folkstyle. Folkstyle is a lot of fun. It's fun to watch. I think this country could rally behind freestyle and Greco if they understood it as well. And you know, maybe you kind of do the inverse where there was some summer events or occasional Folkstyle tournaments you could go to. But I think the bottom line is the ultimate goal is to win Olympic and world titles. And so we should be teaching those styles.
No, I think that makes sense. And I looking back, I wish I had done more freestyle as well. Just at the fact of, you look at some of the top guys, like someone that comes to mind is Bo Nickel. He wrestles fearlessly. He doesn't care if he's throwing himself to his back.
Oh yeah, that's why he lost that national title.
Yeah, but like, I mean, that fearlessness, I think is a really big part, especially in freestyle where it's exposure based. And I think it would have translated really well, where I think a lot of talented wrestlers in folk style, they are too cautious, or they don't want to shoot, or they don't want to make a mistake, or they don't want it to be, they feel like they have to be perfect, when no, you just have to go, commit, and be fearless, and that's where you're going to have success. So those top guys that show that, I think, succeed really well. But to kind of finish our stances here, Mike, what do you think?
No, we should keep folk style. Definitely. I mean, you guys did make some good points, but I still think that keeping it does give us sort of an edge. Like, there's certain things that intangibles that you take away from folk style that I think are applicable on the international stage that other countries are starting to adopt themselves. I feel like the fact that you're seeing these moves that are primarily folk style that other countries are taking is proof enough that there is value there. And I don't think nixing it is the correct move.
It depends on who you ask. If you ask Yanni, he says get rid of it. It's time to switch folk style to freestyle. I think it's a matter of time before because we've seen the rule changes in folk style where the 3-point takedown now. I think honestly within 5 years there's going to be a push out rule in folk style.
Actually, that's an interesting point. But you bringing up Yanni, where did his dad was a Russian national champ, or I mean world champ, right?
No, that was Vito.
Yeah, Vogar.
Oh yeah, Vogar. Yeah, Vito. Vito's dad was Russian national champ, so he trained freestyle his whole life. Then Yanni did both, and he also won a world title. I think that's an interesting tidbit.
Didn't they train together?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
the two of them kind of grow up together.
Yeah,
I think they both wrestled for Vogars. I could be wrong,
but yeah, Vogar's Vito's dad. So
yeah.
But anyway, I think it's still good to keep folk style for now. You know, it's like, why do we have, you know, the metric system, right? You know, it's good to have.
That's a great example.
The U.S. thrives in certain things, and the whole rest of the world does something different, but it's still good to have.
So Mike is going to be the cinch on this.
Yeah, so Mike.
I mean, so I like folk style a ton. I think that I encourage all my young guys to start freestyling Greco because it's carryover to folk style. And as it stands, that's our ultimate goal, is to win state championships, New England championships, national championships in folk style wrestling. The amount of guys that matriculate up to winning a world and Olympic title is pretty low right now. It's rare to get a guy from your club, from your high school, from your college that not only makes a world team, but then wins a world or Olympic medal. So for that, I love folk style, and that's why I encourage it. If I had the magic wand to, switch everything over, I would switch it to freestyle and Greco to see us focus on that. And I've made this point a lot with other videos. If you want to be a great wrestler, you wrestle. If you want to be a great runner, you run. Michael Phelps is an incredible swimmer. I don't really see him doing a lot of triathlons because he sucks at biking and running. If I want to be the best freestyle wrestler and Greco-Roman wrestler and win world and Olympic titles, I have to do freestyle and Greco-Roman. And folk style is going to get in the way of that. And if we started training, we took 2 guys, twin brothers, from 5 years old. One of them trains freestyle and one of them trains folk style exclusively. And we say your ultimate goal is to win the 2028 Worlds in Los Angeles. Who would you say has the better chance to do it? Probably the freestyle wrestler. And I think that's what our goal is as a country, is we want to keep seeing dominance on the world stage. That is the pinnacle of our sport. And a lot of people are going to say in the comments, well, the pinnacle of our sport is actually the NCAA championship, because that's the pinnacle of folk style wrestling. But you go to Italy, you go to Cuba, you go to Mexico, Algeria, Iran. They do not talk about college wrestling because all they care about is having their 19-year-old win a world title.
Yeah, that's true. There are no state championships, as far as I know, in those countries.
Exactly. So for that, I would go freestyle and Greco.
Wow, there you have it. We are outvoted here 3-2. But drop a comment down below. What is your stance? Is it time that USA transitioned off of folk style and focused more of its energy on freestyle and Greco, those Olympic styles?
I'm calling it right now. There's going to be at least 1 to 4 comments of people being like, nah, fuck freestyle.
That's true.
Yeah, for sure.
I hate freestyle.
I think it's because they don't understand. I think and we've talked about this. I think it's because they don't fully understand it, and people are like, well, if I don't get it immediately, why would I care?
It's also, we're US based. We don't get foreign comments, except for that one guy from
we do get that guy.
Who was that country?
He was like involved in that country's
Mike, remember like the first comment?
Oh yeah, that was way long ago. Yeah, he was like on their team Olympic team committee.
Yeah, he's like an IOC member.
Yeah,
watching
he was not very happy with us at the time. I don't remember what country he was from.
I don't think he's commented since.
He hasn't. No, this was like a one-off. I didn't even have to go back to that video. It was early Cactus days. He was like, you piss in my country or something. He was like super mad about like what we were saying. He's like, you guys suck. I ended up looking him up and I was like, oh, this guy's like legit.
He was like a legit figure in that country.
He was like the national team coach for Papua New Guinea or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that was it.
I think it was Papua.
Yeah, it was like a very small, and I was like, they don't even have representatives.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, anyway, we want to thank our special guests for hopping on, Tom and Ed. Thanks for coming on the channel. You guys are always welcome if you ever wanted to come back on, and we love having you. And so just make sure you drop a comment down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on freestyle versus folk style versus Greco even. And thanks for watching Cactus Wrestling.
Thanks for watching. We are Cactus Wrestling, and we'll see you next time on our next video.